Good morning. We are going to go live. Are we live yet? Here we go. So, good morning. Happy Wednesday. Today's hump day, middle of the week. Remember that we're goal oriented people. We got our goals down beginning of the week and we go over them daily so we can focus. Remember, you want to write them down because when you write things down, that's when you put your focus. And when you put your focus, that's when you put your energy. And when you put your energy, you create moving forward. Right? Um, Having said that, today I'm going to walk. I think we're going to do is going to drive uh, out every day that I can. The YouTube channel. First of all, I want to give you thanks for support that I'm getting the YouTube channel. We're up to 11,600 subscribers. Great, thank you. And the views are going up. So I'm getting a good response. I'm trying to put up one video a week and a couple of shorts. So that's going great, and I appreciate the response. So if you haven't done so, please give me a like. I really appreciate that. A like or subscription. And your comments are also very, very good. Appreciated. So today I want to talk about my book. Uh, so I wrote a book. Uh, that's no, I'm a real estate broker. I'm been in real estate over 30 years, and I focused on pre-construction the last 4 years. And my way of giving back was to write this book called The Miami's Pre-Construction Blueprint. Um, and the book is out. It's been out for months. Um, some interviews, some two magazines already gave me some nice reviews. I'm getting also reviews from people who read the book. But I wanted to address so really, I try to focus whether I read the book or more the question that we're going to want to go over today is who is this book for? So this book really is for the people living in Miami, right? To understand what's happening in Miami. Two, for investors, and three, if you're a realtor. But let me focus on today's walk on the people that live in Miami. So if you live in Miami, and we've been here for a while. You definitely seen how fast things have changed, right? We started off like before COVID, or let's just say during COVID, we started to see rents uh, go up. Uh, we started to see an influx of people moving to Miami, and then we're starting to see a bunch of reconstructions happening all over the place. And sometimes we don't understand. If we live here, all we've seen is we're looking at the city. Our local complaints are things are getting too expensive. I saw a lot of movement for people that were living in Brickell moving to Doral. People from Doral were moving to maybe up or down to Homestead. Uh, Obviously, because prices, Brickell kept going up. So the prices, so you see those movements that it's happening. So if you live in Miami, why is this book interesting for you? Why is this book? Because they're going to lay the fundamentals of what's driving the change, right? What's driving the change and how it's affecting you. So Miami, and I think every change, if you embrace it, if you understand it, and you get ahead of it instead of resistant, you could definitely take advantage of it. That's where the opportunity is at. Because the reality is nothing stays still. So life changes. Every day we're changing. Every step I take forward, I left a step on the past, right? So there's a change, and we need to be focused on that change. So if you live in Miami, this book is going to give you the understanding of the fundamentals. Why is all this pre-construction? I've come to the conclusion that I think 80% of Miami is going to be rebuilt, and it's being rebuilt right in front of your eyes. So why now? Why all the driving forces to have this all this new construction? Why knock all these buildings down? Why have people move out of their houses? Why? So the reality is, Miami. First, we need to understand that the Surfside. There's like I would say a before and after Surfside. Surfside was a condominium on the beach on Miami Beach. That in the night, uh, on 12 and 1 o'clock, right, in their sleep or in their apartments, and then things collapsed. And then I think half of it collapsed, the other half did not collapse. But people had to get out and leave their pets. I think it was it was a perfect moment in the history of Miami. But that, every we have to learn, and I think Miami's been very good. The city of Miami, Miami Beach stuff, right? As human beings, we have to learn from the past and build things, you know, or take steps for that not to happen, and make sure that things in the future are better for the next generation. Having said that, you take a little break. You guys know the Miami-Dade, the tri area. We have the strictest building codes in all United States. And that's because we have learned from the hurricanes. I was looking at this data, which is kind of shocked me. We get less damage from hurricanes than New York. I'm like, wait a minute, how does that work? Well, the reality is that we have been building in the past, our building codes are getting so now we have better impact windows, kind of water resistant products. So the way that we're building today, it's a lot safer. The codes are more strict. The permits, guys, the permits have gotten more strict. And those permits really are there for your own safety to protect your investment, to protect the things got done right. I'm going to give you a stupid mistake, thing that I see a lot sometimes. So, real estate people change the impact windows and they don't do it legally and they don't get the permits. And one of the things is when you put impact windows, depending on the window, there has to, that the screw size has to change. Kind of makes sense, right? Because the screw is what's going to hold the window down. So you can't put a big window and put like a half an inch. Maybe you need like an inch and a half. It depends each window comes. But when you haven't somebody who's not experienced of putting these windows, or they take shortcuts, they will just put the same screw all over the place. Guess what? If you have a window that's supposed to be resisting, let's say 100, 120-mile winds, it's not going to work because you did not install it right. So when inspectors come in and they do inspections, they're going to notice when they take the screw out that it was installed right. So basically, you're cutting corners and you're hurting yourself. But let me get back to after serve side. It made the city reflect on our processes. We might in Florida, this is kind of newer state. Our condominiums associations have been, let's just say, uh, loosely managed. Have not have really good oversight. They did not have transparency with the budgets, right? So we realized that for example, a common mistake, a lot of them didn't have what they call the 10% reserves that you're supposed to have of the annual budget. Why is those reserves important? It's because if something breaks, you have the money to fix it right away, right? And what was happening is a lot of these buildings, something will break down, it would just get patched up. Or if you wanted to fix it, you would have to call in a meeting and do an assessment. I actually collect the money to fix that, and not everybody's on time. And then something that should take in 2 months to fix, it would take, it'll take a lot more time because of the whole process of getting it done. So we needed more transparency. So after that happened, the cities got together and they passed a whole bunch of new ordinance or codes, let's say building codes, and those building codes are meant for to create more transparency, to create more, to be more safe, to more safety, and basically, and this happened what 3 years ago, and they gave us 3 years to get implemented. Those were supposed to start on January 1st of this year. 50% of the buildings did not comply with that, and so they just pushed it over for the next year, but to stop. So a couple of things that were very uh, things to look at. Number one was that every building has to have the reserves. So you saw a lot of people get assessments, so that the condominium will build a 10% reserves for the budget. If the building is over 30 years old, right, you were going to have to also get another 10% on the structural value of the building, so you could fix structural problems. And then right? So every 30 years, excuse me, every 30, after 30 years, you will have a structural engineer come in and assess the building and see what kind of repairs need to be done. and make sure the structure of the building is sound so it would not collapse. What happened? I mean, having said that, Surfside was going through their inspection period and they were doing a bunch of stuff. And I guess part of the timing was not right or something happening along the, they were under the inspection period. They were doing the inspections, they were doing a lot of things, but I guess it was a little bit too late and things just collapsed, right? So major things to change is that we have to have 10% reserves. And guess what? I mean, a lot of people get upset because this assessment of the 10% reserves, it doesn't add any value to the building. Your property is not going to go up because you got an assessment to have reserves. Then the structural part of it, that's another assessment that people were getting it. But then another thing that came very, very thing was that before in Miami, you were allowed to grandfather in codes, meaning like older buildings from 1970 or 1980, they were built, they would, have, and the codes have changed, right? Um, so so they didn't have maybe the impact windows or the safety features that we were up to code to right now. And that changed that all the older buildings would have to be up to code with the new codes. So a lot of these buildings would have to put impact windows, fix their balconies, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that right there, changing the codes, changing the law, it's what started to fuel the transformation of Miami. That opened the door to people realizing that we had a lot of the buildings are old, over 30 years old, or the condos are 30 years old, which is most of Miami, right? It comes to a point that you have to say to yourself, is it worth for me to keep fixing this, or is it better for us to sell it and have a developer knock it down and create a new building, a new structure, right? Sometimes not all condos were. Some condos were better managed than others. I mean, for example, look at Santa Maria and Brickell. That's one of the condos that's super well maintained. Like kudos to those people that have it structurally wise and everything. Other condos were not. I mean, other condos were mismanaged. And this is one of the things that let me share with you guys a point that I think is very, very interesting, just so you put things into perspective. Because I speak to a lot of structural engineers that are doing this, out in the field, talking to what's happening, right? And what happened was to a lot of these older buildings, say 1970, 19, built in the 80s, uh, you would buy this apartment because they had a right, good location, and then obviously, you want to update it, right? You have a unit that's what, 30 years old, 40 years old. So you want to update it, right? So the first thing people would want to do is, let's put marble floors on it or ceramic floors. I mean, if you had a rug, that was great. But if you had tile, what did they do? They ended up putting tile over tile, adding weight to the unit, right? Common thing, the balcony look bad, so they'll put tile on the balcony. And some people went ahead and closed the balconies, adding more space to their apartment. And then you want to redo the kitchen, right? And back in the day, the kitchens were like laminated. The kitchens were pretty much very light. Now we have real wood cabinets, right? And then we put quartz, right? We put stone on the counters. We want an island, open up the make a space. We put an island that's heavy, that's heavy, right? We do the bathrooms with marble, etc. So we were adding weight to these buildings without nobody taking control of that. What do I mean by that? And the way it should have been done is association should have, all right, so let's say unit 402 is going to redo this, redo that, they will calculate. All right, so supervise the transition, make sure everything was done up to code. And also calculate how much more weight they were adding into the building. It's common sense. If you add weight to the building, then you have to reinforce uh, the structure of the building. So a lot of these buildings, it's kind of hard to figure out what's their weight, right? Uh, and on all buildings, they also get water that filters in through their columns, right? In case of water weight. But all those things could be addressed and could be fake, right? So if the building was well kept, I mean, you could still have it. But the reality is that most of the buildings in Miami were not capped. A lot of the transformations of apartments or this updating, let's say, of the apartments were done illegally. I would say, or maybe illegal. Let's just say without permits, and something that's very common how we say here is like it's up to code, but we just didn't get the permits. How do you know it's up to code if you didn't get the permits? The reason of the permit is to verify the code that you were up to code. So you would hire, let's say, a GC. Yeah, no, we could do it up to code, but because what happens is it's true the permits do slow down the process because during the process of any remodeling, let's say, you have to advance, stop, come in, the people that give you the permits, check what you've done, it's okay, and they let you move on. So the permits slow down the process, and that became so. What happened after the law change? That is what fueled a lot of this transformation that you're seeing in Miami. So if you live in Miami, you're saying, why are they knocking that down? Why are they transforming this? Have you seen how much money we're putting in infrastructure? I mean, look at that new signature bridge. We're going to have a park under that, right? But not only have we seen the city of Miami change in regards of the new construction of the building, look at the new infrastructure that we're getting. I mean, we're putting things up to date. I mean, highways, you know, highways are being, modernized. Our infrastructure, our parks are, so Miami's completely changing right in front of our eyes. And also, guys, we live in Miami and we saw COVID, and you guys realize that we did a great job. Miami stayed open pretty much through COVID. A lot of new states did not do that. Created a lot of people, working the mobility to work from, decided to move to Miami, and so there, we have them. If you still please feel free Google, go to Google and say how many people are moving to the state of Florida, and you're going to see it's 1,000 people. It varies. Like sometimes I see it in the morning, it's 980, 900, I think 90 something, 1,100. It varies, but let's say an average is about 1,000 persons, people a day, right? And that's according to the DMVs. That's the driver's license. These people that actually went and changed their driver's license to put their local residents over here. 1,000 people a day. That's a lot of people. I mean, I know the state of Florida is big, but let's just say about 30%. So about 300 people are coming to Miami, and most of them are coming to Brickell. So we started putting pressure on the already existing infrastructure. If you live in Miami, I mean, we're complaining. What are our biggest complaints? God, I think they're getting more expensive. It's just like we can't. And then we decide that we kind of want to move, and we realize how traffic in Miami has gotten because we're getting this major influx of people coming into Miami, and we were not ready. Yeah, we were not ready in public transportation. Actually, expressways. That's why you see an expressways being, updated. So I mean, if you live in Miami, unless if you live in Brickell, and I think you could get away now living in Brickell without having a car. But most people that live in Miami, the way Miami structure, you do need a car, right? So we're seeing because I see the complaints for the Miami people live here. Prices are going way too expensive for us. Uh, then traffic is getting crazy. Too much traffic, right? And it's amazing that we don't recognize the city anymore. If we look at the city, I mean, you parts of city, you go like North Miami Beach is Argentinians, you know, you go to so the culturally wise, the culture mix, the mix of the people. I mean, we're seeing it change. Then the other complaint that I keep hearing from people from Miami are school systems. Our private schools are getting so packed. There's waiting list. Prices are also cut up in all schools. I'm trying to put my son in Belen right now, which that's a done deal. But it's just seeing how all of this is, you know, all of this is affecting us, right? So that's driving the change. So to answer the question, and there's only one because I think I'm taking too long, is that I wanted to, if you live in Miami and you read the book, which the book's available on Amazon, right? And if you read the book, my goal was that when you finish reading the book, because the book is not a textbook, it's not a technical stuff, it's an easy read, it's for you to understand, it's my story, so you understand. But once you finish reading the book, if you live in Miami, you are going to have the fundamentals, the understanding why Miami's changing. And you're going to see that it's just only logical, that it's the right thing to do, that we're moving in the right direction, that there is no bubble, not overbuilding, we're not overspending our budgets on things that are stupid. You know, we are doing things that are needed for our safety are needed to transform Miami in the city that is becoming. I think Miami is becoming a powerhouse, a complete powerhouse in the world. You know, think about it. We're the only city that has all the sports. You guys thought about that one? Let that sink in. We have Formula One, we got tennis, we got football, we got soccer, we got baseball, we got basketball. I mean, we got polo. I mean, you think of a sport, we have it. So that is, also, I mean, we live in a great place. I mean, sunshine, wellness. We top ranked in the cities of wellness. So a lot of parks, a lot of activity, a lot of outdoors going out there, right? So we Miami's position itself, and the biggest change. So the law created, the surf side with the new codes fueled this transformation in Miami that we had to, it was just get to a point that something gets too old and it was not maintained right. It's better to knock it down and create something new. So that also opened, that became a central part of the thing. And then having all this population coming in, we have to create new housing. So if the building is 30 stories, you want to knock it down and create maybe a 60 or an 80-story building, and that your builders are contributing to the housing problem and creating more households that we need. Because even with everything that's getting built, believe it or not, it's not enough for the inventory that we need. Uh, so if you read this book and you're an end user, so we're just going to finish with that part. Or being somebody, if you live in Miami, it'll be a fun read. You could read the book and you're going to be able to have a conversation, understand that what's happening in Miami is it's great. The changes that are happening. So you could also change. Think about it. There's no, like, I talk to people. Oh, Miami's just getting too expensive. I need to move. I need to go. And I'm like, I don't know, you guys. I've lived in Miami. I came here when I was 10 years old. Uh, and I've seen a lot of the changes in Miami, and I'm loving Miami. I mean, this is the time you look at, see the restaurants coming in. Yeah, it is getting more expensive. But let's be realistic. We also have more opportunities. One of the things people that live in New York, and you talk to the people, why do they live in New York? Is because the opportunities, the doors that you open up in New York, you're like New York is the capital of the world, and I mean the opportunities, the speed, and the things. So the ability for you to make money there is way. That's what's happening in Miami. So if you live in Miami and you read the book, you might stop complaining and saying, "Oh, you know what? Makes sense, and I want to take advantage of this, and I want to position myself because let's be realistic. All these people that are moving into Miami, high-end individuals, they need better services, right? They pay more for things, you know. So there's a big opportunity in the service. There's a big opportunity in companies that to cater a lot. For example, and then the reality is this. So to close it out, what started the transformation? Number one was the law, the new codes that are still being placed, and we're going to see that happening. So we're going to see buildings getting closed for your safety reasons. And then the other thing is we have a big population moving into Miami, but this is the best one. I mean, we have 160 something companies, Fortune 500 companies that have moved their headquarters to the Tri Area. Tri Area is West Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and Miami. So now, guess what? We have jobs. I remember when I went to college, you would go to college and you would end up in Philadelphia, California, San Francisco, because that's where the headquarters was. Now we have real headquarters like Citadel and these people. So now we got, real jobs here in Miami, you know. So people are coming back to Miami. They're going to school and coming back to Miami. So that's a great, and so that's what's driving it. So having said that, because I think I'm taking too long, have a great day. Today is Wednesday. Be energized. A lot of positive things happening. Let me say good morning to my beautiful wife, Diana. I see Nathan. I see Chris. See a couple of you guys. No one on the list say good morning, but thank you for having this morning walk with me. And today is Wednesday. Let's make the best out of it. There's something good coming your way. Boof, let me send you some positive vibes. And let's make this a great day. Let's go get them. Let's get it done.